Hello and welcome back to the Fairbanks Year-Round Podcast, another solo episode for you today, and we are going to discuss for sale by owners. This is a message to for sale by owners, and this is not a bad message. I think there is a lot of misconceptions about the relationships between realtors and for sale by owners. And what I mean when I say that, if you don't know what that means, is somebody who is selling on their own and they have decided not to use a real estate agent. So first off, let's talk about that choice. Really, the whole thing is going to be that choice. Everyone's free to do whatever they like. I think there is some sentiment that has been going around lately that realtors, real estate agents control the market and they're not allowing anyone to negotiate or make their own decision. I disagree with that. If you want to sell your house on your own, you should have the freedom to sell your house on your own. Where it becomes a legal issue, if you were unconcerned, you're legally allowed to sell your own house. If you want, you cannot sell somebody else's house for them unless you're a licensed real estate agent, at least in the state of Alaska, and I believe that's for all 50 states. There may be some little workarounds there, but you have to actually own it. Otherwise, you are acting as a unlicensed real estate agent selling houses. So the things that I wanted to bring up is first as a peace offering of why. So working with agents is your choice. But okay, let's talk about the commission first. So commission is generally, in my imagination, got to be the number one reason most people want to sell things on their own. They see that percentage or that flat rate. Again, everybody's commission is negotiable, so it depends on who you're talking to, whatever the fee is. But in my what I've seen at least is no agents are working for free, or they shouldn't be if they have any value. So I'm imagining a lot of for sale by owners are wanting to save money and put more money in their pocket by selling it themselves, which is A-okay. It is totally fine. But we should talk first about the buyer side commission. So this is always negotiable. I'm like walking on tiptoes here, so we're not getting some weird spot, but everything is negotiable. What has happened most commonly in the past in this area, which does not mean it has to continue going this way, is that a seller, if they're using an agent, would pay a total commission of whatever, we'll say 6% of the selling price, and that listing agent would then offer some portion of that commission to the buyer's agent, what we would call the selling agent, which can be a little confusing. So you have a listing agent, which represents the seller, and you have a seller's agent or selling agent, which represents the buyer. So we'll just call it the buyer's agent, so that's not so confusing. So they offer a commission to the buyer's agent, and the reason we do that is because even if you are the greatest real estate agent of all time and you have the most buyers of any agent in the market, you don't have all the buyers, and you in general have a very small percentage of the buyers because there's so many real estate agents in different areas. We're still over 300 licensed professionals in the Fairbanks area. So if you can imagine, you want to sell the house and you want to get the best price. The way to do that, it's always been a numbers game, is by getting the most eyes on that so you can get the most showings in there and so you can get the most offers to the seller. So by getting the most eyes is why we offer that commission, because we don't have all the buyers. However, agents do control most of the buyers. Most buyers do have an agent. It's above 90%. I want to say like 92 to 94%, but the exact percentage is escaping me. So if you're doing for sale by owner, that's the first side I would look at. Hey, I don't want to pay for someone to represent me. I feel comfortable representing myself. That's A-okay, but you should at least consider offering a buyer's commission. And in my history of talking with for sale by owners, most of them are open to that. So it usually works out. If you are being represented by an agent, as a buyer, then that is something you could ask about. Hey, how do we deal with for sale by owners? Some people don't want to deal with them because they feel like they're a headache, but usually what it is the agent is scared because they feel like that seller is going to be mean to them or something. So for me, I'm happy to work with for sale by owners in not any capacity, I shouldn't say that, but in most capacities, because really what it looks like is, hey, seller, I'm going to bring you an offer and we're going to work through the net sheet. And if it works for you, it works for you. If it doesn't, it doesn't, just like any other deal. So most sellers are open to negotiating that commission, again, to get those buyers in. And I would think that most sellers understand that nobody wants to work for free. I'm not going to bring a buyer by to your house and sell your house to the best of my ability if there's no paycheck at the end. I do love doing this. I do love helping people out, but at the end of the day, it is my job. It's how I make money. So that is just not an option. So while I would love also to keep the total commission that I get from the seller when I'm representing the seller, I think it's worth offering a big part, usually around half of my commission to the other agents, because I know how important it is for the seller to get the highest price. If not, I wouldn't offer buyer's commissions. And that could change. That has just been what it has commonly been. So it is now, it's always been negotiable and up to the seller what they want to offer on that commission side there. So that's the first side. The other thing I like to bring up is the difference in sale prices. And this is not to bash on for sale by owners. I'm trying to be as delicate and nice as possible, because there's literally no animosity for me. If you want to sell your house on your own, that is like totally your choice. If you want to sell your house with a different agent, it's totally your choice. That's your freedom to have, obviously. I would, of course, love to sell every single house through me because I think I'm good at what I do. And of course, is how I make my paychecks. That's what I'm driving for. But I also understand that is not a realistic goal. So everyone's going to do what they want. And I want you to feel most comfortable and be happy at the end. However, if we're just talking real numbers here, for sale by owners, on average, for similar homes, you will sell your house around 6% less than what an agent could do it for. And this is a nationwide number. You can twist numbers all the ways you want. That's the argument that I get from a lot of people. It's like, well, I'm sure you could do another study and do it in a certain way and make it seem like the for sale by owners are selling for more. And we've seen this happen time and time and again with statistics getting twisted around. So I wanted to bring that up. But I do think if you just look at the reasons, I think you will agree that there is got to be some kind of separation. First, just like anything, selling houses takes skill and it takes knowledge. It takes prior experience. So in most cases, for sale by owners, your owner on average owned 3 to 5 homes in your lifetime. So you're selling 3 to 5 homes in your lifetime if you did every one of them on your own, as compared to an agent such as myself that is selling that many in a month, 1 to 2 months, depending on the month, and of course, how many sales that you're going to do. So we just have way more experience with that. Exposure is a big one, and this is what we call marketing. Marketing is a huge deal. Obviously, just like I said, the goal is to get as many eyes on your property, generally online these days, but however we can get them, so we can get people in the door and we get offers in hand. That's always the goal. And again, if you're a for sale by owner, a lot of agents aren't even wanting to make that call to see if you are willing to pay a buyer's commission. Even if you are willing, they don't want to deal with it because it is more work for them, because we generally have to do a little bit more paperwork on your side, and we have to present the offer to you, in which normally a listing agent would do that for us. So you're limiting. Just even if you do offer a buyer's commission, it's still limiting because you're not showing up on the same searches that these agents are sending out to the buyers. And as a reminder, we have most of the buyers. So it's one of those things that you're more likely to get skipped over. And can you sell a house for sale by owner? Yes, you can. And can you get a price that you're happy with? Yes, you can. And I'm sure that you can. So this is just things for you to think about. So if you're like, hey, this guy's saying I can't do it on my own, it's like, no, here's some reasons why you may not sell it for as much. And even with the commission, because I think all that should matter to the seller, which is generally the case, is what they walk away with. And so if you're netting less, even if you don't pay a commission, but you're walking away with less money, I mean, most people would be like, no, I'd rather pay a commission and walk away with more money. That's the goal. And I'm not saying that's going to happen every time, but here's the reason. So the marketing, the other big one is pricing. This has always been a deal. This is a deal when I price houses for sellers. We go round and round on it. I used to be a lot more combative, and now I've come to the realization. It's like, hey, here's all the things that I'm looking at to price your home. Here's how I came to this price. Does that all make sense, Mr. or Mrs. Seller? And they can say yes or no, I was thinking more because of this item and this item. We can adjust as necessary. But what I have found is a lot of people, every seller's got a number in their head, I believe, of what they think the thing is worth. And they can be low, they can be high, they can be dead on. But how they come to that number is where I always kind of question people. It's like, hey, how did you get that number? It's like, oh, it's because that pays off my mortgage and gives me enough money to do the next thing I want to do. It's like, all right, well, that is totally unrelated to what your house is worth. Nobody is pricing your house based on the mortgage and what you want to do next in your life. So could it be the perfect price? It could be, but most likely not. So you have to look at these reasons why we're pricing things. And in this area, we're a non-disclosure state. So that means when someone sells their house in a disclosure state, that price is opened for everyone, so you know what that house sold for. Non-disclosure, we do not have to do that. In fact, we don't in general. I'd say all the time. So you're not disclosing what things have sold for. So if you are not an agent, you don't have access to historical sales. Excuse me. You may have a tough time pricing correctly because you don't know what comparable homes or homes that are similar to yours have sold for recently. So that's another thing agents bring to the table, especially in this area of non-disclosure. And even if you're in a disclosing state, being able to run the numbers and make adjustments is a bit of a skill that a lot of agents honestly don't have. So again, you may have that touch, but yeah, these are the big three. The big three items is your pricing, your marketing, and the last one we haven't talked about is your communication. If you are going to do this for sale by owner, please answer your phone, or if you don't answer, which happens because you're working or whatever, call back. And I know I'm an agent calling these for sale by owners, so they may just not want to call me back, but I've heard many times, like I called and I just never heard back. And that seller, whatever, got tired of trying to sell the house or just missed it or what doesn't have a follow-up and forgot about it. So communication is huge, and is also not just getting buyers in and setting up showings and things like that. It's also throughout the closing process. So in my opinion, as a real estate agent, take this with a grain of salt, you will generally, based on statistics and just looking at the real world things that sell houses, you will sell the house and you will net a very similar amount or less by having an agent against not having an agent. So you could possibly walk away with less because, and here's how it works, even if you don't pay that commission, you find somebody that wants to buy it. Well, you've had way more time on market. You haven't had as many eyes looking at the thing, so you don't have the competition happening. So you may sell your house for less than if an agent were to get it marketed properly. And this brings in a bunch of stuff. Having good photos. Most for sale by owners that I see are not staged very well. Their photos are not professional, and those all make differences. And all these things add up to dollars on the purchase price. And deals falling apart. We didn't even get to that yet. Let's finish this thought up first. So in general, you could have an agent. You could walk away with about the same or maybe a little more in your pocket. And that agent has taken a bunch of the headache off of your shoulders. Headache off your shoulders? That doesn't make sense. It's taking the headache out of this thing. It's taking the weight off of your shoulders. You do need a good agent. All agents are not the same. That is another thing that has come up. Is you have people who don't want to pay the fee, which I think is the majority of people. You have people that just don't know an agent to call, which I think that does happen. I think that's a lot more common than people think, where they just don't know what to do, so they just go buy a for sale by owner sign and don't know these statistics that I'm trying to bring to you guys. And again, this is very self-serving, so it's kind of a hard thing, like, hey, you should use an agent. But like, honestly, I believe that you would be better, you'd be happier, and you'd probably have as much or more money in your pocket because of it, especially if you just don't know an agent. But then you have to interview and get good agents. And then another reason that possibly you are listing by yourself is you had a bad agent experience, which is common, and you don't want to use an agent. And this is bothersome to me because we all get grouped together. And this is one of those very prejudiced, where it's like I had our last agent, or even last two agents, sucked. All agents are terrible people, and that is just not the case for anything. I like to think that I'm a great person, and I like to think I'm good at my job, but you should be interviewing and making sure you get a good agent, because a lot of them, it doesn't take much to get your license. So there's a lot of sucky agents out there, just being honest. So you make sure you get a good agent. Most people, like, again, above 90% of people use the first agent they contact, that they talk to. They don't interview anybody else. They just use whoever gets a hold of them first, or a family friend or whatever. Just because you're related to somebody does not make them a good agent. And just because they were the first person you talked to does not make them a good agent. So make sure you find a good agent, and I can give you some tips on that as well. If you're in this area, I'd love it to be me. Just pick me. But I do provide questionnaires for things to ask your listing agent, and I do this even on listings I go to. I recommend that they interview more than just me, even though most likely they're not going to listen to me and they're just going to use me, which I think they're getting a great agent. But I want them to have the best fit for them, because there's a lot of great agents in this market, and that we can do a very, very similar job, but maybe you get along better with somebody other than me. So you should have those options and hopefully have the best, smoothest deal where you end up with the most amount of money in your pocket. But yeah, if you've been burned by an agent in the past, again, free to do what you want. But I would recommend looking at how you came in contact with the agent. Did you interview a bunch of agents and pick the best one? Is this a family member? Is this just somebody who called you? Whatever the reason may be, again, your choice. If it's like, nope, I use a bunch of agents, you're all the same, you all are just money hungry and you can't help it. I think that's untrue, but it's totally up to you for that. So anyways, my message for sale by owners is, in short, I think that you can get the thing sold. I think that's 100% the case. You can do it. Not everybody does, but you can get it done, and you can get it done on your own. It's been shown over and over. So for me to come here and be like, we're the only way to go, not true. You can do it however you like, and you may have other considerations besides money that I'm not bringing up. But look at the real numbers and look at the stress that you may save and the money you may make or money you may lose by having an agent, and get real with it. And you may decide that an agent could be a good choice for you. But let's talk about pricing for a little bit. So pricing is nobody gets to decide what the house sells for. The seller gets to decide what you list for, especially as a for sale by owner. You list things for anything you want, but that does not decide what it will sell for. Good Lord. Can't speak here today. The market decides what something will sell for. So, and there's a bunch of thoughts about this. I've talked about pricing in a previous episode. I think it was just called Pricing Your Home Correctly or something like that, if you want to listen to that. But the reasons we would price things a specific way is to get you as much money as possible. Like, that's always the goal. But at the end of the day, we don't get to just say, hey, this house that everything indicates it's worth $400,000. We're going to list it for $600,000. That doesn't mean it's now worth $600,000. It's just what you're asking for it. So there is a little bit of confusion with that, where you get a hold of an agent and they're like, hey, this Blake, I listened to his podcast and he said that you're going to sell my house for more. Well, we're probably going to sell your house for more than you would sell your house for, but it doesn't mean we're going to list your house for higher than you would list your house for. Like, that doesn't always correlate. So I was trying to sell my house for $500,000 on my own. I've decided to use an agent. He said, you're going to sell it for more, so I'm expecting $550,000. It's like, well, I'm sorry, Mr. Seller, you did list it at $500,000. You weren't getting offers at that price, probably because you were overpriced. So I'm going to get you $450,000, which is realistic, but maybe on your own you would have only got $425,000. Again, for all those reasons we previously discussed, of not having the proper marketing, not having the right photos, not getting out there enough, not communicating properly with other agents, with people calling for showings, and even in the deal. And then the last thing I want to bring up with all of that is the number of for sale by owner deals that just go kaputs. And this is pretty common because the contracts, if there even is a contract, may not be as airtight, and you don't have somebody pushing to get you to closing. So for sale by owners, I should have pulled this number before. It kind of just occurred to me as I was talking about it. They end in termination so much. It's like half the time. Whereas the average for agents is much closer to like 10% or less of deals end in termination. Terminations do happen, so it's not the end of the world, but you do want to keep buyers in as much as possible, and you want to get to the finish line. That's always the goal. So those are kind of the big points I want to bring up. And this is, of course, self-serving for me, so it's always kind of a tough conversation where it's like, well, of course you'd say that. I was like, I legitimately believe, with all that I know, that you'll have less stress, you'll sell your house for more and probably pocket more, again, on average, and you'll get to closing more regularly with an agent. But again, it's always your choice, so just consider those items if you do want to sell on your own. And if any of that it all sounds interesting to you, and you're like, hey, I'm not sold on what you're saying here, I want to get into the nitty gritty details, and you're in this area, hey, give me a call and I will go over, here's what I do for you, and you can decide if it meets what you want. And here's my expectations for the sale of the house and all those things. So I'm happy to do that. That's pretty much it. So thank you so much. That is my letter for sale by owners. Hopefully it is helpful for you, if nothing else, whether you use an agent or not. I hope there's some nuggets in there that will help you sell it more easily for yourself if that's what you decide to do. All right, thanks. Have a good one. Hey there, thank you so much for listening. If you want more content from AK Blake, you can find me on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, all under the handles AK Blake. Or if you want to listen to more podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts, it's there, Fairbanks year-round. You may or may not know, I am a local real estate agent here in Fairbanks with the Summit Realty Group. So if you like what I'm doing and you want to move to the area, you already live in the area, or you're looking to invest further into real estate in the area, you can reach me. Probably the best will be either my website, akblake.com, my email, blake@akblake.com, or my phone number is probably the fastest, 907-651-8356. You can call or text. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next one.